Hey folks, what's up? You might be wondering what I've got on my head. This is a helmet, a Macedonian helmet, from the time of Alexander the Great. You may have heard of him. There's a story about Alexander when he was on his deathbed in Babylon in 323 BC. He had all his generals around him, and his generals were asking him, who will be your successor? Who's going to take over this massive kingdom this massive empire that you've built? And so you know what Alexander said? He said, the strongest. I mean, you might think that's a bit of an asshole move, it probably was, but what he meant was the fittest, the person who is the most fit to rule this huge kingdom, the best person for the job. And how does that relate to test automation, you might wonder? Well, a lot of people ask me, how do you decide how to implement a particular scenario? How do you decide what testing strategy to use to automate your acceptance tests? What technology should I use? Should I use Cucumber? Should I use REST? Should I use API calls? What should I do? And so what I tell them generally is you want to choose the best strategy. Now, what is the best strategy? Well, that will depend. Figure out the best way to demonstrate how a particular acceptance criteria is satisfied in the fastest possible time. That's the only way you can get away with in-sprint testing. Forget test pyramids, forget layers. What you need to think about is, I have a set of acceptance criteria which demonstrate some examples. These examples, we need to demonstrate them to a product owner one way or another. Do we need to demonstrate them through the UI? Can we demonstrate them simply by calling a REST API? Can we demonstrate them by demonstrating that the code inside a certain microservice works? What is the fastest way to demonstrate that you are getting the value, that your code can do what it is meant to do? And then you want to consider things like, who is this for? Who's the audience? Is this something you want to document for your product owner, for your BAs? Is it something the BAs really participate in? Or is it a finer-grained edge case, a finer-grained condition that only maybe developers and testers are interested in? And depending on that, you might decide a living documentation tool would be better, like Cucumber, or you might decide just to go with JUnit or Mocha or some conventional unit testing tool. And based on those decisions, you can decide what the most effective way, what the best strategy is for each scenario. Now, it goes without saying, this only works if you are writing executable specifications before you start work on a sprint. If you're automating test cases after the fact, forget it, it won't work. You'll have a great deal of trouble getting in-sprint automation if you're automating test cases. So that's your first thing you need to get by. But once you've got through that, and you are writing executable specifications, you are collaborating, you are having three amigos, then you want to say, how do we automate each one? What is the best strategy for each and every scenario? Anyway, that's what I wanted to talk about today. And, oh yeah, what happened to Alexander's kingdom? The successors, the generals, had some debate about who would be the best, and the kingdom fell apart into warring factions. Maybe they weren't so hot at self-organization after all. Anyway, that's all for today. Thanks for listening.